Hey everyone, today we're at the table with Betsy Greener, Malia Walker, Angie Richardson, and Kathy Walters, and we're talking about motherhood. We have mothers here from all different stages of life, and as you know, it's getting close to the month of May, and we always start thinking about mothers and mother figures and people who have been like spiritual mothers. And so I just want to take a few seconds. I have 4 kids. I want us to each tell how many kids we have, different ages. I was actually up at 2 o'clock this morning, and I had to stop and think about how old my oldest ones are because after a certain point you kind of forget. Mm-hmm. But I have 4 kids. I have 2 sets. I often say I have 2 sets. I have now I'm going to forget, 28-year-old Nora and 28-year-old Gracie's 24. She'll be 25 this year. I sound like Wonka. Wonka last night said, all of us 4 or 5 or somewhere in between. Anyway, so Gracie's 24, 25 or somewhere in between. And then I have my second set, Anna and Aiden. Anna's 13 and Aiden's 12. So Betsy, we'll just start with you.
Yeah, so I have 2 kids. My daughter, Bristol, she's 10, and my son, Benton, is 7.
I have 3 little girls. So Lillian started us off. She's 5 years old. Mm-hmm. We have Ryan, who is 3, and Junie was born in August, so she's 8 months old.
So you're a fresh one.
We are fresh at our house.
And I have Josh, who is 25, and Abigail is 23, and they're both married. So I have 2 kids and 2 extra kids, special kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I also have son-in-laws, 2 son-in-laws, and grandchildren. I left that one out. Yeah. I do have 3 grandchildren also, so I kind of fit into everybody's category a little bit on some kind of level. This morning I was trying to think of, something that we could just start off, and I thought about what's something that you felt like you were wholly unprepared for as you were thinking about being a parent. And I'll start us off because I thought of the question, so I had a little time to think about it. And I was telling Jonathan this morning, and he kind of corrected me. But I said, the one thing that I felt like I was wholly unprepared, it came out of nowhere, unexpected, was the fact that I was never going to be able to poop in peace again. Ever.
So true. So true.
He said, "Don't say poop." Is it okay that I said poop? Okay. He said,
"Sorry, Jonathan."
Yes, sorry, Jonathan. Potty. I never get to go to the potty in peace. And if they're not just busting in there, they're standing at the door talking to me. They're knocking on the door. Their little fingers are coming underneath. Yeah. Can't, no privacy ever. Yes. And it's probably, this would probably attribute to a lot of women's digestive issues, right? We might not have these problems if we could just have a little peace. But anyway, so anybody else, what were you unprepared for? One of those things that just caught you off guard as a mother in motherhood. Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of moments lately for Corey and I, me really more, is decision making. Growing up, I think my personality, I always like to be affirmed in my decision making. And so there's been so many moments that I'm like, wait a second, I am making these decisions for another human.
Like I'm the adult.
I'm the adult right now.
Somebody make a decision for me.
Yes, could someone hold my hand and help me right now? So yes, decision making. I was not prepared for decision making.
Yeah, and the question that just goes on into infinity is what's for dinner.
Yeah,
and we're solely responsible for answering that question. Mm-hmm. Why? Mm-mm. I know it's that question that you're like, if I could have that one question answered every day for me.
For eternity.
Yes. That's so funny. You saying that. I used to say that. Well, obviously, I was the one.
Right.
So, they knew that, and they still do it.
Yeah.
Our lives are a little busier these days, and so sometimes it might mean we're picking something up on the way home. But used to, I cooked a whole lot. And when I would go in the kitchen and I'd start cooking, all the kids would just hover
like buzzards.
Yes, they're like vultures, or, buzzards waiting to pounce, and they'd start eating it even before I was finished. And that's
that what's for dinner question. It'll get you.
Yeah, it'll get you.
Well, I would say everything. I was wholly unprepared for everything. But the thing that I guess really surprised me the most was like the love that I was going to have for this human. Like, you know you're going to love your children. Like, there's no doubt. But then actually feeling it and like getting a small picture of like our Heavenly Father's love for us. It's been like
good.
so eye-opening for me. Like, I love my kids so much, more than I can even like put into words. Like, but my Heavenly Father loves me 10 times, 100 times more than that. And that is
that's
just
good.
unfathomable to me.
Yes. So good.
Yeah. I think for me, and I wasn't going to follow yours with mine because it's kind of heavy, but yours is deep too. But I think the thing that rocks me more than anything about parenthood is when they left, and like I feel like people don't talk about that. I don't feel like they talk about that phase. When you hear empty nest, you think, oh, I get to go do whatever I want and be free, and we don't have to take care of these kids anymore. But like just their departure, I feel to me was as traumatizing as bringing them home from the hospital. Like as life changing as that was, it was just the same life changing to me when they left. And so I don't feel like I was prepared for that. I don't feel like people talk about that enough to prepare us for when that happens. Not that you can prepare for it, but that's probably the thing to me that was like, whoa, I was not ready for that.
It's funny that you say it. Not funny. I mean, that stands out that you say that, because it may be in my mind. I think, why do we not talk about that? Because I remember whenever Nora, my oldest, got married, I was not prepared. Her husband now, I mean, he proposed, they got married 2 months later. I mean, it was just really fast because they were moving to Guatemala, and it just went very quickly, and it was just a plan the wedding and all the things and decorating. And I remember the day that she got married and they left, and I walked back into my house, and I walked into her room, and she had this vanity with this mirror, and it had all these little sayings that she had written all through her high school years, and she'd just written them all over this mirror. And I just stared at it and started crying because I thought, she's not here.
Yeah.
She's not here. What am I going to do with this mirror? Like, I'm going to cry every day when I walk into this room because of this mirror with all her little sweet sayings.
Yeah.
And but I'm wondering why we don't share that, or we don't tell others. But for me, I probably thought, I'm the only one that's feeling this right now.
Yeah.
This is unique to me. When in reality, it's part of motherhood.
Right.
It's the things that we walk through that are, even though they're so different, so many of them are similar.
Right.
They resemble each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is interesting. So joys. What are some of the joys that you think of when you think of motherhood? I mean, obviously, there's so many different things that we could talk about. Anybody have any thoughts?
So for me right now, I'm in the training stages of motherhood. Decisions, but also helping. I'll focus on Lily and our 5-year-old. Right now we're teaching her how to be a kind friend, or we can only control ourselves and our emotions and not other people's reactions. And so I would say for me right now, the biggest joy that I'm experiencing with Lillian is seeing her heart be developed and how she is already becoming a disciple of Christ through the way that she loves others, and to hear her little prayers. We pray every morning on the way to school. We hit Well Road, we get off the interstate, and she says, who's going to pray first? She keeps us on track. And so just to hear her pray for her friends and pray for her teacher, shout out to Miss Jones, Rebecca Jones, you get prayed for every day. So to hear her care for others and just to see that development in her, it's just been so rewarding. So rewarding.
That's good. That is good. That's really good. Yeah, I know that's something when I think about it, and it's along those lines. But a lot of times I'll see siblings, and I had this with Nora and Gracie because they're pretty close in age, and then Anna and Aiden, 15 and a half months apart. What was I thinking? I wasn't. You weren't. I was not thinking. Aiden was my surprise. I used to say, well, we're not going to say, but he's my surprise. Yeah. But they're so close together, in their ages. And, a lot of times you see siblings that don't get along. And I always told Nora and Gracie that too. I was like, this is your built-in best friend.
Yes.
This is the person that's going to be here. You know, you'll have friends that come and go, but this person, this is going to be your built-in best friend. And that is something they do. Don't get me wrong. Oh, my goodness. Sometimes they argue. Anna, I mean, if she's listening, she's going to die that I said this. But, I mean, you know, her brother should start saying Anna, and she's like, what? You know, I mean, that's her response to him. But oh, the joy that I have when I see them sitting together and playing a game together or just talking. You know, when I see them together and that there's that peace and they're unified and there's not that, you know, rivalry or anything like that. It hits me right here.
That just,
you know?
that brings me right back to what you said, though, Betsy, like the parallel of the responsibility that we have as a mom. See, here I am getting emotional over the souls of our kids. It's the same with the Father. When he sees us in unity and loving each other and living in peace and blessing one another. And it's just so cool to think about that we get to have this parallel like the Father does with us.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's good.
Anybody else? Some of those joys.
I think for me, and forgive me, I'm just at the stage of like having grown kids, but like, you know, you hear people say like, I'm not your friend, I'm not your friend, I'm not your friend as they're growing up. But then the actual day when they become your friends, to me, this is like one of the sweetest spots, having grown kids and just seeing friendships develop and really like entrusting them to things of your heart that you didn't as, you know, when they were little. But just having grown kids and having adult conversations with them and investing in each other's lives has been really cool. And right in the middle of like this being one of the hardest seasons for me, it's also one of the sweetest. Right. So, you know, it seesaws back and forth of, you know, I'm just so grateful. And another part of the joy is just watching them serve the Lord, watching them be married, watching them put Christ in the center of their marriages and their home and things like that. Like you see all the work that you poured in when they were this age, and you're like, thank you, God, for, you know, despite me feeling like I messed the whole thing up, you just came in and, you know, did this awesome thing. So, yeah, it's really good.
That's good. My little Bristol is my little encourager. And she knows, she thinks I'm like the best cook in the world. Whether it just be I heated up some noodles and poured some sauce on top. It's the best spaghetti ever. Like,
Don't you love that?
Yes. When she was in first grade, we both started a new school. I was teaching and she was at the new school, and she told all of the little teachers and all of her little friends that her mama makes the best spaghetti. And they're like, well, we have to have your mama's recipe. She's like, it's a family secret. We can't tell our family secret. And I'm like, it's literally a box of noodles and some Prego that I pour on. Like, it is not that secretive, but she's my little encourager. And so like having that and those words of encouragement, like, she also is the first one to call me out, you know, too. But and then my son, he's just, his little personality is so different. He's my cuddler, my sweet, you know, just, he's just so sweet.
Yes. Something about those boys.
Yes.
Yeah, my boy, my surprise.
Yes.
He's my cuddler. And my love language is touch, and it's also his. So we feed each other a lot. A lot of cuddles, lots of cuddles.
Yeah.
One of those things that I always think about when I think about motherhood, you know, we hear this word all the time, mom fail. So what's one mom fail that comes to your mind where you thought, man, I really messed up?
Just pick one, huh?
Yeah. Not enough time for all of them.
I feel like when, and I tell this story to parents of like teenagers, but geez, having teenagers is hard, especially girls. And I love Abigail. Like I said, she's one of my best friends, but her teenage years was pretty, and she wasn't rebellious. She wasn't like out and out, like into sin and all, you know, this, but her heart was, like I've said before, like she never rolled her eyes out loud to me, but I swear inside that head, those eyes were rolling back. And, you know, so we just went through a hard time. But I remember when Josh was 13, and you'll know why I remember that he was 13. He and I were just, trying to figure each other out. I'm trying to understand him. He's trying to understand himself. There's hormones everywhere. And I just said, I just need you to be patient with me because I don't know what I'm doing. I've never had a 13-year-old kid before. And the sweetest little way, he looked at me and was like, Mom, I need you to be patient with me too because I've never been 13 before. So it was like a moment of like, we don't know what we're doing, but we're just trying to figure this out. Right. So, I think in those times, if we're just honest with our kids, like, I don't know what to do in this situation, but we can work it out together. Mm-hmm. That's what that felt like at that moment. But yeah, there's a lot of times where Richard and I would just be like, we're messing them up. We're messing them up.
God, we need you to fill in all the blanks here.
Because for real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. This is one of those times I know I have so many mom fails, but it's I'm so overwhelmed with the stories. I have to figure out which one I want to share.
Yeah.
Well, I know with Nora, I was a young mom. I was either 19 or 20 when I had Nora. I can't remember. I'd have to do the math, and I can't do the math right now. But I was a very, very young mom, and I don't think I really knew because I was also the baby of my family. I don't know that I had really been around a lot of children, so it's not like I was the older sister that had seen, and I wanted her to be perfect. I don't know what, and I wouldn't have said that then. I didn't even realize that's what I was doing. But everything I did was like, no, don't do that. Everything I did was just, trying to create perfect. I see that now. At the time, yes. I don't think I realized. But looking back at it, I think, oh, man, if I would have just stopped and slowed down and enjoyed her or, sat and explained why I was saying something or why, but I'm telling you, even in the midst of that, and I know that's a heavy mom fail because there's a lot of mom fails that are just silly that I do still all the time. But as, she's gotten older and I've gotten older, we joke about it, about how I'm a different mom with my second set than I was with my first set. I didn't know what I was doing. I was making all kinds of mistakes. I got to, I grew up with Nora. She was growing up. I was growing up, and I learned a lot. And I said, I'm so sorry, Nora. I had to learn on you. And goodness gracious, talk about seeing God in the midst of motherhood. Mm-hmm. She's just like Mom as an adult, as a mom herself, saying, Mom, it's okay. I turned out great. The things that really mattered. You were bringing me to church. You were instilling, godly, talking about the Bible, talking about God. You were putting those things in. And she's like, it's okay. I forgive you. And I'm like, oh,
amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing how God just fills in those blanks.
He does. He does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gracious. What a unique opportunity that you got to redo,
Yes.
That's
I'm
so
a much
special.
better mom now. Thank the Lord. Anybody else? Mom fails?
One that comes to my mind is, my kids, one of the last Christmas we had with my late husband, and my kids were 4 and 7, and I had been instilling to them. No, they were 4 and 6. Sorry, they're only 2 years apart. I'd been instilling into them, like when we go to all these family functions at Christmas time, how to receive gifts.
Yes.
Like, you're thankful. Like, even if it's something you have, you don't open it up and say, I already have that, or I didn't want that. Like, going through all these things, trying to train them and prepare them for really the first Christmas where, they were old enough to fully understand that people spend their time and money giving them these gifts. So I had been instilling them, and that Christmas morning comes, and we're giving gifts, and my late husband gives me my gift, and, us moms, like, I had learned at this point, we had been married 10 years, like, I have to give him a list of the things that I want for Christmas. And this Christmas, I even happened to give him a list of things I didn't want, things that he typically gravitates towards that I didn't need anymore.
Don't bother.
Yeah, and so I'd opened up this gift, and of course it was not on my list of things that I wanted. It was on the list of things that I did not need anymore, like he'd given me enough of that. And I made the comment, probably very rude, frustrated, and said something like, I told you I didn't want this. Like, I gave you a list of the things I wanted. And my little 6-year-old Bristol, my little encourager who calls me out, she looks at me, she said, well, that's not very kind, Mom. Like, you have told us, we say thank you. You need to apologize. And, like, at that moment, like, felt this small and apologized to him and was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm not doing what I've been preaching to the kids. And had to ask for forgiveness from them. And I think that was such a teaching moment for me as well. Like, they're watching everything I do and say and picking up on these things. And it was really, like, a change in me at that point.
Absolutely.
A big fail, but I'm growing from it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you said something that was so key and crucial. I mean, they are forgiving.
Yes.
When we will just stop, when I've stopped and said, hey, I am so sorry. I raised my voice and I shouldn't have right then because I was not even aggravated with you. You know, when I take that time and I apologize, I mean, they're just like, oh yeah, no biggie. We're good. You know,
Yeah.
and so it's amazing that even in those moments, how they're just so forgiving.
They turn the page very easily.
They do.
Much more quickly than we do,
Yes,
for sure. We can
yes.
learn something from them.
Yeah, just you saying that made me think through, like, there's so many days I'll have a frustrating conversation at work, or I feel overwhelmed by a circumstance in life, and I'll raise my voice, but I do go back and ask for forgiveness, and those little eyes just look at you and see the best in you, and we just move on from it. So
Yeah, it's amazing. So I'd like for us to talk about, because I mean, obviously in motherhood, there are so many things that we struggle with and situations, and everybody's experiences are different. Everybody walks through different parts of your life, and a lot of times the experiences that we have, and they're unique to each of us, but they cause, a struggle in the midst of motherhood. And so what's one struggle that you can think in the midst of motherhood?
for me, I would say comparison. And I would say it's comparison between my girls, comparison to other children, comparison of what is this mom doing versus what am I doing as a mama. I've talked about Lily, and so I'll move on to Ryan and say, if you know Ryan, she's a unicorn, right?
She's an awesome, sparkly unicorn.
Yes. So her name is Ryan, but we call her the rhinoceros because she is a bull in a china shop. But she's facing a lot of different challenges right now. And so a lot of times I can get really caught up in, well, I disciplined Lillian this way. Or at this age, Lillian could tell me the letters in her name. Or at this point, just all the different comparisons. And so that has been a challenge for me that the Lord has really had to refine in me, is that timelines are different. There's not one timeline that fits every child. And, just like in these training years, how I talked about seeing that come out of Lillian, the most important thing in Ryan right now is her heart training. All of the rest is going to follow. And so just reminding myself that there's not one shoe size that fits all when it comes to parenting. And so parenting Lillian looks different than parenting Ryan. And I'm sure when Jeannie is ready for her training, it's going to look completely different too. So comparison has always been something hard for me.
That's good.
That is good. That's good.
Could you repeat the question?
So, let's see. What is it? What have been your greatest struggles in motherhood? And it could be, anything, whether it's a struggle with you in parenting, or a struggle something that, a struggle. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can I?
Don't take my silence as I did not have those, because I did. I'm just trying to process.
I know. I feel like, I have a list of struggles. How long do we have? But I know for me, this might even help stir your memory bank. Mm-hmm. One struggle that, this is goes across, it spans, I guess. But I have two sets of children, and it was through divorce. I have one set they have one dad, and a second set with another dad. And so, my husband now. And, that is, let me clarify that. Jonathan and I are married. And that has been a struggle, constantly. Just the mesh, being a single mom and having 2 little girls, then trying to bring somebody else in to that mix and the dynamics of that's been a struggle, trying to figure out, trying to let him be a dad to my older ones, all the while, finding that mesh, blending that, making that work, and all the while speaking the truth of God in the midst of that. I remember answering the question to Anna when she's like, well, if divorce is bad, then why did you get a divorce? Why, if it's not, if God doesn't want us to get a divorce, why, and having to have those tough, questions and answers to those tough questions. And so that has been an ongoing struggle that has gotten easier, but it has been something that at random times, about the time that I think, oh, we're smooth sailing and we're doing good, another question will pop up or something, where I'm going, oh, why can we not just, but I love those questions. When I think back to all of those things, God has had his hand in the midst of it and has refined me. I mean, talk about refinement. The person I am today is nowhere near the person that I was when I was 18. Yeah. I'm so, God has refined me and refined me and refined me. And when I think about a lot, it's always in those struggles that I find that refining of Kathy, So I mean, that's been one of my struggles.
Yeah.
Throughout motherhood, the first set, the second set, and still it just keeps,
And don't they have questions?
Boy, do they have questions.
But I think the great thing is when they ask those questions and we don't know the answers to them, that we just say that. Right. Or if it's some deep theological question about God's word, then take it as a challenge of like, let's figure this out. Let's dig in here and see. But I think just the more we can apologize for when we've been wrong or raised our voice or whatever, and when they see our humanity and they realize like my parents aren't perfect, but they're trying. Right. I think the more real we can be with our kids in the not knowing what to do or in the messing up, then that creates these beautiful humans that are okay to mess up, that are okay to apologize. And so, we can get frustrated with the questions or frustrated with the calling out, but that's, I feel like, the times where they see like realness and they can learn from, my parents aren't perfect. Yep. And it's okay.
Yep. Right. When we invite them into the messy, we're preparing them for a stronger faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
To learn grace, to learn these disciplines. And I've always said, and I did not mean to cut you off if I cut you off. I've always said that parenthood is the purest form of sanctification in my life. There are so many times that the Lord has slowed me down and said, okay, we've seen this a few times in you. Let's sit and talk about this. Let's get rid of this. So, yes, when we invite them into that, we're growing them leaps and bounds instead of protecting them from an experience.
Right.
So.
Or making them feel like we don't make mistakes, because that just sets them up to think they can't.
Right.
And if your kids ever come and told you something that they thought or said or did, and you're like, oh, fix your face. Don't overreact. Just listen, and
stay calm.
Yes. So if they see us make mistakes and we're okay with it, and then when they bring us something that they've done or said and we don't overreact, then what that says to them is, I can trust my mom. Yeah. I can trust my mom to not lose it if I tell her something that I did that's really bad, right. And or a thought that I had, or if they stole something or was mean to a friend. Just the fact that we don't like go nuts whenever they tell us those things, that we're like, okay, well, let's talk about what we need to do and how we need to fix this. Right. Or, just sometimes listening, because sometimes the natural consequence that they received is enough. Yes. We don't have to pour on top of that shame and guilt. We just have to listen. Right. So just letting them see and understand, like, making a mistake is not bad. Right. It's how you handle, how you react from there and how you handle that mistake. Yes. So,
what a kind of piggyback off that and to talk about like the struggle, I'm the opposite way. Like, you know, prior to losing my husband, I was more the, you know, good Southern, you know, typical whatever Southern woman. You have to be the strong one. You have to be the one who always has it together. As moms, like, you know, we've had this mindset that we can't be like that, you know, that we have to be strong for everyone. We have to always know what's for dinner or what, you know, what's the cleaning schedule. Like,
Yes.
we can't struggle. Like, that was my mindset before losing him. And then losing him, God revealed to me through my daughter that when I told her, you know, that she lost her dad or whatever, like, she didn't cry. She didn't have any emotions. And I was like, okay, well, she's just in shock. Well, that went on for several days. And I'm like, God revealed to me through prayer, like, what's going on? Like, what does she not understand? And it revealed to me, like, she's doing what you do. She's showing that she's strong, that she can handle this. She's not showing emotions. And so, like, I had to go to her and talk to her, like, and tell her it's okay. I had to cry in front of her. I had to be vulnerable with her to show her, like, Mama's messed up in the past, and I've set you up for failure thinking that you have to hold all this in, and you don't. And so that was a struggle. It's still, I mean, I would say even now it's still a struggle because I still had that mindset that I have to be the strong one.
Yeah.
And we still struggle with that. And I still, like, even the first time I ask her, what's wrong? She's, nothing. You know, like, it's that stoic, nothing's wrong. And having to pull out, it's okay if something's upsetting you. Like, it's okay. We can go to God. Like, he doesn't want our perfect. Like, he doesn't want us to go into him with our perfect. Like, he's there to comfort us and to lean on him, and we can go to him. And so it's been a struggle. It's still a struggle. We're still learning through it.
Yeah.
But it's been sweet as well. Our relationship has grown so much, and it's been a sweet little time for us as well.
I think when I was reflecting and thinking through motherhood, when you asked if I wanted to be a part of this, what kept coming to mind was that the Lord has met me the most in motherhood in the unplanned moments, in the struggle, in the valley. I beat you. I beat her to the tears. When plans didn't go my way, or the vision that I had for motherhood, it has not been that way. That is when I've met the Lord the most, and he has filled in the gaps the most for me. I think about in Proverbs when it talks about how we can make our plans and we can decide on everything, but the Lord's plan always prevails. And so in that plan, you know, we mess it up, we fumble the ball, but he's always meeting us there, and he's always filling in the gaps for us. So
that's good.
good
I
stuff.
know I've said this a lot lately, and it's almost like the more I'm around hearing other people's stories, and the more it just keeps coming back to my mind, you know. And I'll speak from a personal experience. You know, sometimes I think I need to bring my strength to the Lord. Look, Lord, this is what I can do. This is what I can do. This is what I'm capable of. You know, I bring this to, you know. But every time, the greatest thing that I can give him is my weaknesses. Lord, this is where I cannot. This is where I'm weak. This is where I can't do this. And then it's just God.
yes,
It's all God. His filling in that gap is him. That's when his glory is really shown. That's when people can see God in the midst. And that's what it is all about.
Right.
It's about people seeing God and his glory being, you know, shown to others.
our weakness is made perfect, which is better than our strength.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so funny, though, that we're conditioned by the world or whatever, like Betsy said, to be strong and to not let people see our weaknesses. And so why would we let God?
Right.
So it starts with him and just trickles down, and showing our vulnerability oftentimes makes us feel so weak and so much like I can't handle it. I can't handle life or whatever. Well, in reality, God didn't make us to carry the things we carry. And you know, my therapist asked me one time, she was like, you need to look at and take inventory of like what you're carrying, and then who asked you to carry that.
Yes.
And the fact of the matter is, like, no one asked me to carry that. I just picked it up.
Right.
And so we carry these heavy burdens, and maybe they're not even ours. Like, I might pick up something that you told me about. Well, then I'm going to carry Malia's too. And then we have our kids on us, and we have our husband. It's just like God is saying, like, who asked you to carry that? You know, and we just got to learn how to, like, let them off, shake them off.
Yep.
So
That's good. Well, as we close, I just want you to, if there's one thing that you would share with moms out there, just that one thing that you would want to say to a new mom or a mom in your season of life, what would you say?
I think for me, like, I had thought about all the, what's the hardest season or whatever, and it's wherever you are. Whatever season you are in, that's the hardest season. And you just hang in there and you make it through that one, and God gives you a little respite, and then the next hard season comes. So, like, toddlerhood and having, preschool kids is hard. So be okay with that. Own it. Like, we're just in a hard season, and don't feel guilty for asking for help, or don't feel guilty for acknowledging that. It's hard. It's so hard. Having a newborn's hard. Having teenagers is so hard. So just say it, and be okay to just say, I feel like I'm messing them up, and I feel like have someone to talk to and say that. Find an older mom to, say, it gets better, I promise. She'll come around. She'll like you again. And then, having kids go to college is hard, and having kids get married and move out of the house, it's hard. So, whatever season you're in, that's the hardest season, and until the next one comes. So just be okay with asking for help, and be okay with being vulnerable with that moment, because it really is, for you, it's the hardest season.
Right.
So don't be ashamed to think, well, I'm not where she's at, and compare and whatever. If it's hard for you, it's hard.
Yeah.
Just, talk to somebody about it, and, be honest.
Yes, motherhood can be so lonely, but I would just tell a new mom, like, you're not alone. Like, we've all gone through this. Like, our situations may not be exactly alike, but I can relate to you, and just seeking out those, like you said, those older women who are walking that life stage with you, different stages, seeking them out and asking for help if you need it, and advice and laughter, just to know, like, you're not alone. Like, this is not something you're having to go through by yourself. Like, we've all been there. You're not failing at everything, even though you feel like you are.
You're not ruining your children.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I would have 2 quick words of encouragement, and they both go together. So right now we're raising kids in a digital world, and so we have so many things at our fingertips that it becomes unhelpful. Our minds are overloaded. And so I would say 2 things. Find your circle of people that you trust and listen to them. And don't downplay God's word in your life. I was just reading in James where if we are lacking wisdom, you can ask God the Father and he will give it to you. And so don't let these outside influences get into your brain. Find the people you trust. Before I had Lily, and somebody looked at me and said, find 2 mamas that you trust and only take their advice. So find your people that you trust, and then let God's word in. His wisdom will help us even in these everyday situations. So.
Yeah, I would just reiterate what y'all just said. Community, it is so vital. It is so important to know you're not alone. That you have people in your life that are helping you. They're crying with you, when they can't help you. And just having that community. And then, just laugh a lot. Sometimes when you want to cry, maybe just laugh. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming and sharing your hearts and what motherhood's about. And thank you for joining us at the table.